All right. Good morning or afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this, if you're watching this. I have no idea, Zach, if anyone is actually going to watch these,
They may
but
not,
which is
but
fine.
we will have fun.
That's right. We're going to have fun. We're going to have a conversation. If you are watching this, this is a conversation between Zach and I. We've been trying to think of, what are some things that we can be doing right now to help, I don't know, just push more content out for our church as we're all meeting online right now. And that's what our conversation is going to be about today. And so this is just a conversation between two friends, two pastors, about specifically, doing ministry online now. If you're watching this at a later date, which I don't know who would be or if you are, but if you are, you might remember that there was a time, and actually we're living in it right now, where this thing called the coronavirus has pretty much taken over the world, and it's a pandemic has broken out globally that is affecting everyone around the world and every country. And so where we live in the United States, in the state of Tennessee, we have been on some form of quarantine or lockdown or isolation, whatever you want to call it, for about 2 months now. For us as a church, it's been 6 weeks that we have been meeting fully online. We have suspended all of our in-person gatherings, and I read something the other day that actually 9 out of 10 churches in America right now are fully online. They are not having any in-person services
Wow.
at all. And so it's been a kind of a mad scramble for a lot of churches. Now, like our church has been online for a long time, and we've been
Mhm.
streaming our services and stuff for several years now. But like where we live in East Tennessee, there's a lot of more rural churches, just country
Yeah.
churches, little tiny churches that haven't had the capability of doing anything like that.
Hmm.
And many of those churches had zero web presence at all before this pandemic hit. And many of them, 9 out of 10, many of them now are like, boom, fully there. They are
Yeah.
streaming their services, even if it's just somebody standing in the back of the room holding a phone up and streaming the service to Facebook. It's all over the country, rural, urban, large churches, small churches, doing things online. And I just thought it'd be neat to have a conversation with Zach about that and his perspective as a worship leader in the midst of this, and just let you in on that conversation as we talk about it. So, Zach, the last time we were together, we talked more about your personal life, just kind of your
Mhm.
journey in in ministry, and how you met Candace, and all that. And that was I'm sure a wonderful conversation that people are going to enjoy. But today I want to pick your brain a little bit more about ministry stuff, because, and we mentioned this in the last episode, uh, you came into KCC, you came into our church as the worship leader right at the start of the lockdown, pretty much.
Yeah.
Your first Sunday, we had been fully online for like 2 weeks, I think, at that point.
Hmm.
And so your first Sunday, and you had actually got to meet lots of people when you came to
Yeah.
interview. You led worship in our actual sanctuary with our actual congregation
Hmm.
on that weekend that you came to interview. And then you come in, and your actual first Sunday after you were called here, nobody's in the room.
No one.
And you're looking at a camera, and like, I'm down there in the front row trying to encourage you. I'm raising my hands, and like I'm trying to, okay, look at me, just look at me. I'm down, I'm getting it, Zach. I'm here. So yeah, just tell me what that's been like for you, because it was actually too, another layer on top of that is that your first Sunday was Palm Sunday. So the start of
Yes.
Holy Week, your second Sunday is Easter Sunday. And this whole time, well, it's supposed to be like the crescendo of the church year and sort of our Super Bowl, if you will. You're
Yeah.
doing it to an empty room, and you're
Yeah.
actually getting to participate in person with people. So what was that? Just kind of give us your perspective on all that. What's that been like for you?
It was definitely a challenge, to be sure. It was Holy Week, and that span of days from Palm Sunday to Resurrection Sunday is has been definitely a big a big element of my worship that I've really done over the last several years, that whether it's through music or through creative elements, um, that I really have enjoyed helping kind of the people in God's church connect with that remembrance of the sacrifice that he made for us, that this is a story worth remembering, this is a story worth telling, um, year in and year out, not just because he saved us, but because that's he gave his entire life for us, and to remember that and to remember that sacrifice is an amazing thing. um so yeah, it was definitely a challenge singing to a camera. um I really thoroughly enjoyed doing the night of worship on Friday night. We did like a good Friday night of worship.
Which we just live streamed
And
on. I think you just set up your
yeah,
laptop
I
or your
just set up
camera,
set
right?
up my
Yeah,
phone
in your living
and
room
just
and
went to
just went.
town.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's been I would say it's probably a little easier to to do that kind of stuff, being a millennial growing up in that technology age and being a little more tech savvy. Um, but I would say the drawback is it's just hard when you can't see people's faces. It's hard when, because as much as I'm sure people enjoy singing along with worship on a Sunday morning, I enjoy just as much, if not even more so, seeing them participate and join along. It says in Psalms that we are to sing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, not just for ourselves, but for the exhortation and for for the building up of each other, for the congregation. That
Right.
it's good that we sing corporately. We're not doing it for us personally. We're doing it for us corporately, like to really encourage and build each other up in our faith. And that's a huge thing. That's you can't replicate that online.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I think for me, like we've been basically recording, our services with like music and everything,
Hmm.
and then the teaching time.
Yeah.
I know for me, it has been difficult to sing with the video. I mean, it sounds great, and you do a wonderful job of engaging the camera, and you sound good. Um, but like, honest, I don't. Has it been like that for you at all? I mean, I kind of sing a little bit, sort of softly, but
Yeah.
it's not the same coming through my TV speakers as being
it's
there.
it's not the same coming through TV speakers or an iPhone or a computer as it is when you can hear the people singing behind you and around you and in front of you coming out of the speakers, and you feel like you're there. You feel like you're in the moment with those people when you're. I mean, think about it. Like I love watching YouTube videos of new worship songs that come out. Like
Mhm.
a personal favorite of mine that just came out a week ago is Elevation's new song Rattle. And
Yeah, yeah, you sent that to me. Yeah.
I love watching those guys like just do their thing on stage. They I think they recorded it during all this shutdown stuff, because you can tell they're like
They
very
did.
spread
Yeah,
out on the stage.
they
They're
did.
very like far away from each other. But even then, like I'm knowing it, and I know the lyrics and I know the words, and it gets stuck in my head and I sing it later, but I'm not sitting there like singing along with them. I'm just like, I'm listening and I'm watching on the computer, but it's so different than being there in person. There's something about a corporate gathering. There's something about being together as the church that really just brings that element of like joy when it comes to singing together.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And yeah, I just think that there's power in that. I think that,
Yeah.
when we're united, right? And like we are, and I mean, that's a whole other conversation. Well, what if a church isn't united, right? Like
Yeah.
I've seen
Yeah.
churches like that where it's like there's division and there's, whatever. And like, you can get together all you want and presence of God ain't coming down, right? Like it's
Correct.
because you are
Correct.
divided. But anyway, that's when you're united and you're together in one place, and you see that in scripture too, that when did the Holy Spirit descend on the disciples? It was when they were
Hmm.
together praying
Yes.
in one place, right? And that's when the
Yeah.
Spirit came down. So I think that there's something about that, and I don't have all the words for it. I don't have
Hmm.
the language to describe it. I just know that something special happens when
Yeah.
God's people get together and we're singing and we're
Hmm.
praying and we're hearing from God's word and we're of one mind and one spirit together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So that's been certainly, I think, one of the struggles in this. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm glad and I'm kind of that generation too that's sort of grown up with technology. I'm a little bit older than you, not too much older, but like yeah, you laugh. Well, I'm like 5 years older than you or something. What are you,
That's fair.
28, 29?
28. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah, 20.
29
Okay,
this year.
so I'm 7 years. I'm 7 years older than you. Same generation. Say they're still
Same
millennials,
generation.
which is why we're doing this, because every millennial wants to have a podcast. So we're because we're so full of ourselves and we love hearing the
Yes.
sound of our own voices.
We need
But
confirmation. We need you guys to
right.
comment and tell us how good we are at talking to each other.
No, I mean, that's kind of a stereotype, but I do I do get so sick of all the podcasts out there. Honestly, I'm like,
There
come
are a
on, do
lot.
you really need one? Do you need anyway? So, but we're just doing this for our church. Like, we're not trying to
Yeah.
get it out to a wider audience for our church family. Anybody who, might just want to listen in. But I do think that, yeah, the struggle is like, I'm just not getting that as I'm
Yeah.
sitting in my living room, and I'm hungry for it. And I think one of the real temptations is we're kind of, the lockdown stuff is going to start being eased up over the next
Hmm.
few weeks. I mean, states and economies are going to begin to reopen. I think that there's going to be a real, well, I'll use the word danger. I mean, that's a strong word, but I think it's an appropriate word. I think there's going to be a danger
Yeah.
in everybody wanting to rush back to church real quick, too quick.
I
And I
absolutely agree.
and I think that there's going to be, churches are just like, okay, throw the doors open and 500 people get in this little room together. And man, I don't know. I don't know if we should yet. I think that,
Absolutely.
and I've talked on our some of our Q&A times that we've been doing on
Hmm.
Facebook, about that, about our plan at
Yeah.
KCC for reopening. And I told them our preliminary plan is basically we're going to be behind the state. Whenever
Yeah.
the
A
state
little
says,
behind the curve.
okay, yeah, okay, churches, you guys can meet again, we're probably going to wait another couple of weeks at least.
Yeah.
Because in our church, we have a lot of seniors, and that's a lot of at-risk people. And
Absolutely.
I think that, honestly, I think that all over the country, you're going to see a lot of those people staying home anyway for a while. I don't
Yes.
think they're going to rush back. I think that church attendance is going to be, I think that you'll see a burst of people at first. And like, I do think that you'll see people who've been disengaged. And so you might see that kind of increase. But I think for a lot of your older people, your at-risk people, your vulnerable people, they're going to be doing the online thing for a while, you
Yeah.
know?
I think this has almost called more attention to just our need culturally in general to be more cautious and more careful
Sure.
with the elderly and the young when it comes to like even something as simple as flu season that kills I think about 80,000 a
Right.
year in the United States.
Right.
It's just something like that maybe something of this gravity and something of this seriousness where it caused the entire country to shut down that may draw our attention enough to then when different things come around next year where it's like maybe we stay home for a month, maybe we stay in a little more, maybe we don't go to restaurants as much, and I don't know how that's going to affect us in the future.
Yeah, I know it'd be really hard for you to not be able to go to Chili's, but
It would be
I,
because I love Chili's.
I don't get it, but that's fine. I mean, hey, to each their own. It's decent. I just don't understand your love and your passion for
It's an
Chili's.
American institution.
uh, but yeah,
Chili's is the new golf course, I've heard that said.
oh, okay, okay.
Yes.
That's funny. Um, Gosh, I had something I was thinking about right there where you were talking about, watching out for each other and just kind of,
Hmm.
oh yeah. So one of the things that's kind of out there that, that's, I think, one of the more frustrating parts about this coronavirus thing is it seems like they're learning new stuff about it all the time. It's like,
Yeah.
even at the highest levels, it's like every week or two they come out, oh, coronavirus does this, or
Yeah.
coronavirus is dangerous to people with these conditions too. So it's like one of
Hmm.
the things that I read last week was, oh, younger people in their 20s and 30s are having strokes because they get coronavirus.
Ah.
And it's general inflammatory stuff that the virus
Yeah.
causes that if they were susceptible to, but still, it's like, why has that not been out there, right? Like, why
Yeah,
are we just
exactly.
now finding this out?
How are we just
But
now finding this out?
yeah, so one of the things that is interesting to me in that is, okay, we're pretty much for certain that in the fall this thing is coming back. So we're right now in the month. We're at the end of April, right?
Hmm.
And so we're getting into the summer months, and the UV rays from the sun really kill this virus quick. If it's out
Yeah,
there,
fair.
and so in the summertime we expect to see things opening back up. But when we get into like October,
Hmm.
November, and we're not getting as much sunlight in the northern hemisphere, right? That this thing might spike again, and that we
Yeah.
may have another season just like this one, where we're quarantined
Wow.
and we're isolated, we're locked down. And so, one of the things that I'm wondering about, and who knows, right? Nobody knows, is that is this the new normal? That like
Yeah.
every fall we have to shut down for a month, we
Wow.
have to isolate for 8 weeks or whatever. And like, what does that do to our church life, right? Like,
Huh.
what does that do when all of a sudden we know that, like, okay, it's flu season or it's coronavirus, like, and so flu season and
Yeah.
coronavirus are going to coincide too, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, is this something that's just going to be like a yearly thing now for us going
Yeah.
forward? If
That's
it is, I'm
crazy.
not saying that is. I'm not trying
Yeah.
to spread panic or make people fearful, but I'm just trying to, if this is something that is recurring, and if this is something that we're going to be more sensitive to
Hmm.
in the future and thinking about, are we going to have like a Sabbath every year? You know what I mean? I mean, from church, like
Yeah.
where we're just doing it online and it's
Yeah.
just periods of, I mean, I feel like that that's a scary thought, but I don't,
Hmm.
maybe there's some things that God could use in that. Does that sound,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, is that crazy,
Yeah.
or
That's.
how does that?
I honestly hadn't even considered that possibility. In my mind, I don't know if I'm just the eternal optimist, but I'm thinking like, once we're through this, we're through. We're
Right.
done. We're
Yeah.
we're gonna be on the other side. We're gonna be good. But kind of looking at it from a realistic point of view, saying like, yeah, if this is a sickness, we know from history that illness and viruses are cyclical and seasonal, and they come back. So who's to say that in another 6 7 months that this won't kind of almost like relapse? And man, that was I think that God could definitely use that as a time, but I almost wonder if online church might just turn into white noise at some point,
Yeah.
if
That's
that's
the other.
if
Yeah.
that's something that turns into if that's something that turns into an every year thing, it's like, oh, church is going online again, time to tune out. Or like,
Hmm.
because it's very easy to just pull up a live stream for a few minutes, be like, yeah, I watched, and then flip back out of it, or set up a computer while the kids are running around, and it's like, oh shoot, I didn't even really get to hear that.
Right. Which, by the way, we can tell on our end.
Yes,
If that's been you, you think you're hiding, but you're not. We could tell.
you
Oh,
are not.
this video had 1,000 views, but oh, it only had 100 through plays on
Yes.
Facebook, which through play means 15 seconds or more. 15
Yes.
seconds or more of watching. So we know if you're just watching for a couple of seconds out
And
there.
we
Just
know
letting
who
you
you
know that.
are.
Well, okay,
Probably
we don't
not.
know who
We
you
don't.
are.
We
No, we
don't
don't.
know
No, we
that.
don't.
We don't. We don't.
We're watching you. Anyway, no. But yeah, it is. I think that's a great question. I mean, right now it's sort of a novelty. It's sort of
Yeah. It's
everybody,
the new thing.
it's the new thing. And,
Everyone's
there is
doing it,
this,
literally.
yeah, and there is this sense that it's temporary, right? Okay,
Yeah.
it's just temporary. What if it becomes a every year thing? Does it just become white noise then?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, what are we going to have to do from the side of like church leaders to say,
Mhm.
okay, if this is becoming white noise, what else
Mhm.
can we do to engage? Because I think
Yeah.
that's like the big word that I keep coming back to in my mind right now is I don't care that much about how many views we're getting.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the through play, whatever, I'm not that concerned. The comments, I'm more concerned with engagement. How are we engaging people where they are in their lives
Yeah.
right now today? And I don't know the answer to
I
that.
don't
I don't know
either.
the best way to do it. So, what is the answer? You're very proud of being younger than me. So tell me.
I
You're
am.
the one
I'm
who knows
younger
more
and
about tech.
wiser.
That's right. Well, hey, you're bragging about know more about technology or whatever. You think I'm okay. I played Oregon Trail, buddy, in the computer lab in
I
elementary
did
school.
too.
You did?
Yes, I
I thought
learned
you were
how
too
to
young for that.
I played Oregon Trail. on the computer at home too. I loved that game, and I also learned how to use a floppy disk, which yes,
Wow. Okay.
which
Okay.
is
Well, yeah. See,
now
we're right
completely
there.
completely irrelevant and obsolete. But
Yeah.
darn it, I know how to put a Word file on it, or I did when I was 7. I don't know.
Yeah. One Word file took up the entire floppy
Yes,
disk.
the
Yeah.
entire floppy disk was a document.
Yeah. Okay, but anyway, yeah, tell me, I mean, like your perspective on that. I mean, engagement. What I don't know. I mean, I think we're figuring it out as we go along, don't you?
I think we are too, and I think honestly, it's a season of trial and error, and
Hmm.
like we've seen in guys that have talked in podcasts or people that have much more experience than us in different areas, is that this is the time to try new things because nobody's going to frown on you for trying something new because everyone's having to try something new. And so if it's something that we'd have to go back to and return to, I think it would just really be a matter of and I hate to say it like this because I don't mean to trivialize the church body into saying like they're a captive audience that we need to keep their attention. But in order to really be effective as communicators of God's word and as communicators of the good news, it, it does require a level of like interest. There has to be something interesting. If nobody's going to just sit there, especially on Facebook or on social media. The attention span goes from this to this.
Yeah, when you've got a
And
dozen different notifications running,
yeah,
there's stuff going on in your house. Yeah.
everything is constantly screaming for your attention, whether it's your children literally screaming for your attention, or your cell phone pinging for your attention, or the microwave beeping for your attention, or the telephone ringing for your attention. Or there's everything in this world is asking for our attention now, and then now we just turn into one more thing saying like, hey, can we have your attention too? And it's, I guess it would be a matter of not only trying to get people's attention but telling them why we are worthy of their attention, because that's something that I think needs to be it needs to be explained or earned. Otherwise it's just going to turn into something like, you see, I see, and I'm not saying that I don't care about these people or that I don't love them, but I see a bunch of my friends doing live streams and stuff. I
Yeah.
click into it for a few seconds, I swipe out of it. I click into it for a few seconds, I swipe out of it, because it's just, it's cool, good for them, but it's not something that I'm super invested or interested in. And
Sure.
so
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
I think, a matter of not only grabbing people's attention but keeping it.
Yeah. That's going to be really interesting if this becomes a regular thing for us,
Yes.
because right now, at least with our congregation, we're pretty confident that we've got just about everybody watching or participating in
Hmm.
some way. We're a smaller church, we're about 120 in an average
Yeah.
on a Sunday morning, and I I see the numbers of people watching on Sunday mornings, and that's we
Hmm.
we have between 50 to 60 screens watching,
Yeah.
and you have to think that, okay, those screens. I mean, what do you want to say on average? Maybe that's two people,
Maybe two and a half,
two
three.
and a half. Yeah. And then we have others who go back later and watch it or watch it on YouTube. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really proud of our congregation for making the effort, to stay engaged. But I'm thinking, okay, if this becomes a regular occurrence where like once a year we have to go into like 6 weeks of online church,
Yeah.
is that engagement and participation still going to be there? And, if not, how does that how does that affect the way we do it? How does that affect the way
Yeah.
we do church? So like I've been trying, and you know this from behind the scenes, but anybody else who's watching might not know this, but I've been trying to shorten my sermons during this time. I have not. It's been really hard,
Yeah.
because I've been doing this, pretty much every week since I was 23. I'm 36 now, so 14 years pretty much. I've been doing this
Yeah.
on a weekly basis, and you kind of develop a sweet spot, just
Hmm.
naturally. I would
Yeah.
assume it's similar for a worship leader,
It is.
So like my
Yep.
sweet spot for preaching is about 35 minutes. And like
Yep.
it doesn't matter if I have like a 15-page manuscript in front of me or if I've just got like a little page of notes, one
Hmm.
page. I'm going for 35 minutes. And so I don't know why. That's my wiring, that's my temperament, that's my sweet
Yeah.
spot, right? And so like I'm thinking about I've really tried to be conscious about it in the last, few weeks is, man, you've got to get to the point faster. You've got to get to the point. You can't spend
Hmm.
as much time. So, because like one of the things, one of the reasons that I think that's my sweet spot is I spend a lot of time just sort of like building a foundation for what's about to come, right? I do a
Hmm.
lot of interacting. I like to tell a funny story from my life to kind of, reel people in at the beginning of the sermon and get them laughing, get them, to
Yeah.
relax a little bit. That's sort of a, behind the scenes, anybody who doesn't know this, like that's a strategy. That's not,
Yeah.
that is on purpose. That is, I try to share a funny story to engage the congregation, the audience, and kind of, it sort of disarms them, right? Well, how
Yeah.
that's hard to do when you can't see people, when you can't
Yeah.
see the people who are watching. And
You
so
can't
like,
interact.
yeah, and like this past Sunday, I told a little joke at the beginning of my sermon, and like I was laughing because I thought it was funny, but I'm like, I wonder if in the back of my mind, I'm like, I wonder if anybody at home is laughing right now. Who knows? And you just don't.
Yeah.
And so that's really been a challenge for me, is to say, okay, man, like you've got to you've got to tighten these things up. Maybe shorten isn't the right word, but
Yeah.
you've got to tighten them up, because I do think that people will listen if it's good, like if it's
Yeah.
interesting. You used the word interest a lot, and I think that
Yeah.
that's really important, because you see this in a lot of podcasts. There's a lot of long form podcasts out there. Joe Rogan sometimes goes 3 hours in a
That's
single
crazy.
podcast episode, and he's the number one podcast in the world, and
Yeah.
people listen to it, right? They listen for 3 hours, maybe not all at once, but they will listen for the full 3 hour episode. One of my uh, podcasts that I have subscribed to is Hardcore History. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Hmm.
This guy just does podcasts about it's a deep dive into history, and so like he has literally 7 hour episodes on like World War II, and it's multiple
Wow.
episodes. It takes him 6 months to make one,
That's
and
crazy.
and he's one of the most popular history podcasts out there. So I don't know that it's necessarily about attention span, but I do think it's about interest, like you were
Yes.
saying. How do we in a sea of voices,
Yeah.
kind of rise above the other voices, the other white noise, to say, here's something interesting, here's something worthwhile,
Yeah.
here's something that will help your life. And I know that might be a little uncomfortable for Christians to hear, because we
Yeah.
want to spiritualize it all, right?
We
And
do.
sometimes I think we want to over spiritualize it. Well, if it people ought to just listen because they should listen,
They should
right?
just
Because
know.
yeah, people should just know. But like, not everybody is at that level, right? Not
Yeah.
everybody is where
Yep.
you are when it comes to that.
Absolutely.
Some people are, I'm sure that every week we have non-believers watching. We have people who are interested, but not all the way there. We have baby Christians, right, who are watching. And we have mature Christians, right, who are watching. And
Yeah.
it's like, you can't just assume that everybody's at like that super spiritual level, where if the for lack of a better word, if the product
Hmm.
that you're putting
Yeah.
online, if the product stinks, they're still going to care about it,
Yeah.
right? Like, you can't
Because some people
assume.
don't know better.
Right.
That's one of my least favorite things about a lot of Christians is that I think
Okay,
too
hang on,
often.
everybody. Hang on. Zach's about to go on a real rampage here. One of his
Should I grab
least
my
favorite things.
soapbox? I
Yeah,
should
go
grab my
grab the
soapbox. One
soapbox.
minute. It's
Go grab the
right under here.
soapbox really quick. No, I'm just
But
kidding. Go
it's
ahead. Go ahead.
well, I think a lot of times we expect too much from people who don't know about the gospel, who
Sure.
people who aren't Christians. We expect, like, people get so disappointed when there's things that blatantly go against what we believe, that are sinful, that are put into movies or put into TV shows or put into music and stuff. And it's like we can't expect people who don't know about Jesus Christ, who don't live their lives like he saved them, to act like he did.
Sure. Yeah.
We can't expect people to know how to act and know that they ought to pay attention to this and that they really should be interested in this and that this is really good stuff, if in their mind all they've seen Christians as is a bunch of judgmental jerks.
Yeah, and I mean, I mean, that's why, when Paul wrote about church discipline in some of his
Uh-huh.
letters, I mean, he's very clear. Yes, for believers, right? We need to help each other and hold each other accountable, right? Or, he
Yeah.
talks about, restoring a brother gently, right? If someone goes astray, right?
Yeah.
If you do see someone just blatantly living in sin and they claim to be a believer, they're part of God's church, well, then, we help each other in that way. But then he's
Hmm.
also very careful to talk about how, for those outside the church, who am I to
Yeah.
judge them?
Exactly.
Who am I to judge those outside the church? And sometimes we can. I think sometimes we get that backwards.
We
Honestly,
do.
like we way overlook stuff in the church because we don't
Yes.
want to hurt anybody's feelings, or we don't want to cause waves, right? So we don't call out things that need to be called out, while at the same time turn around and putting a target on people outside the
Yep. And being
church,
like, oh, I can't
right?
believe them.
And I'll tell you what, I think it's easier.
It
I think
is.
it's easier because like it's super hard to do that, to someone you love and care about and
Oh
are
yeah.
sharing community with, right? And that you have to see them every week.
Yeah. You don't
It's
want them to dislike you.
right. And it's easier to just turn around and point that target at somebody that you're never actually going to meet and just say, oh, the world this and the world
Yeah.
that.
That's
And,
just so
that,
there's
yeah,
what's wrong with them. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, well, we kind of got off on a tangent there, but anyway, so
But
that
I
all
but I
it all relates to what we're talking about though with
mhm.
online stuff.
Yeah. I think that because of that reason, online stuff does need to have an element of like interest, like you said, and attention. Not just give us your attention, but here's why you should. Because people, like you said, who aren't actively involved and participating in a church on a regular basis aren't going to see a church's live stream and be like, oh, wow, I should really subscribe to this and I should listen in every week. They're going to click in for a few seconds, maybe a few minutes if we're lucky. And if they don't hear something that gives them hope or that gives them something to think about, it's going to be white noise.
Yeah, yeah. Something I've been trying to do while we're doing this online stuff is, and I don't know if the church people have noticed it or picked up on it yet or not, but pretty much every week I'm doing a call to salvation,
Hmm.
and I mean that's something that I don't know. I do try to do each week, even when we're in person, but not as strongly. You know
Yes.
what I mean? It's almost
Yes.
like I don't want to say it's an afterthought, but it's
No.
you just kind of put it out there almost just in case, right? If
Yeah.
there is anyone there among your congregation, you want to provide that opportunity for them to respond to Jesus for the first time. But while we've been doing this online thing, I have been very, very much
I
like
have noticed
every
that.
week
Yeah.
that is the call. Right now my afterthought almost is believers. It's like
Yeah.
it's not an afterthought, but it's their part of the application or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it. What do you do in your life? It's very short, and then the call for unbelievers is longer. And I don't know, maybe that will be something that God teaches us through. Is maybe He's bringing, that's something I've been thinking about, is maybe He's bringing me back around to really thinking about, how are you putting out a call for
Hmm.
people to put their trust
Yeah.
in Jesus for the very first time
That's
every
good.
week? You know
That's
what I
good.
mean? Because I realized that, I've kind of gotten in a habit to where that's almost an afterthought. And
Mm.
now every week I'm realizing, oh, wait, there really might be unbelievers searching for hope right now. And what hope do you have to offer them except Jesus?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah. Well, what do you think what do you think God's been teaching you during this time? Like, yeah, what have you been learning? What's He been, just as far as ministry goes?
Yeah.
What do you feel like He's talking to you about right now?
Um, Honestly, I think that God has been teaching me a lot about patience in this last real season of my life. Even towards the tail end of being in Iowa and coming out here, there's been a lot of. I mean, I don't think by any means that I've had a super hard life. I've been very, like I said in the last episode we did. I've had two very loving parents. I've been provided for. I've been loved and raised up in the Lord. And I don't pretend to act like I've had a super hard life. I know that some people have been through a lot more than I have, but this last this last season of life has been probably one of the darker and one of the harder seasons that I've walked through. Um and when you have a family, everything is multiplied and compounded on top of each other, because it's not just, if I mess up, it's not just my life I'm messing up.
Yeah.
If I mess up, it's not just my life on the line. Now I have a wife that I'm providing for. I have two little kids who just are the biggest little bundles of joy, who don't know any better from anything right now, who are just looking up to me like I'm the coolest thing in the world. And to look at them and know that, to be in a place where I didn't know what God was doing was really scary. And I didn't know, we knew we were leaving Iowa. We knew that we couldn't stay where we were, but we didn't know what was next. And to come out of that season and into this has been really refreshing. And I think God's just continued to teach me more and more about patience and relying on Him. It can get very easy, I think, to fall into a routine, even not just as people, but especially as Christians. I think we can very easily, at least I can. I can't speak for everyone, but I can very easily fall into a routine where, I get in the Word a little bit. I, you know, do some prayer, sing some songs, get some work done, play with the kids, play with the family, and it just becomes almost something where I'm more relying on my abilities and my sense of routine and my sense of security, to kind of like get me through the days. And then I realize that I get to the end of a week or a month, and I'm super frustrated, or I'm being really short with my wife, or I'm getting really like impatient and really upset really quickly. And I look back and I'm like, I really haven't given this to the Lord. I really haven't like said, I need help with this. I've just kind of gone through my routine of like, this is what I do, so this is what I'm going to do. And I think in this time, kind of like taking me intentionally out of a routine. Like I've never done anything like this before. I've never had to work from home or been isolated from people for a long time. It's really been a good kind of introspective look at myself, and kind of God showing me like, I have some work to do on you, and I need you to humble yourself, and I need you to be patient with the process, because He was for sure patient with me. He's been patient with me throughout a lot of bonehead decisions I've made in life. So I think it's time for me to be patient as He works on me.
Yeah, that's good. I was reading something, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. I forget where it was. It was somewhere, one of those things in the Apple News app, on your phone.
Mhm.
And there's all these different sources like the Atlantic and, New Yorker and all that. One of
Yeah.
those sources, the person was writing about the time that we're living in and said, that rather than seeing this I mean, obviously it's for those who have been sick or who have had friends or family get sick with this thing,
Hmm.
not to make light of that at all. Like that is, obviously a terrible thing. But they were saying, for the rest of us who are, just trying to stay at home and locked down and all this stuff, that, what if we didn't see this as like necessarily a bad thing in our lives right now? What if we instead looked at it as an opportunity for like a national retreat almost?
Mm.
That this is a time of we're being forced to retreat from our busyness, from our distractions, from
Yeah.
normal life, and have to really be home and almost being forced to be self-reflective
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
thinking about, okay, I'm not working like I was. Who am I then, right? I'm not able to get out and do the things I used to do. Well, then who am I, right? And like what? And so I think that in the midst of that God could use that for some real good in our lives. So without without getting too personal or
Hmm.
whatever, but you mentioned that He's been working on some things in you. As much as you're comfortable disclosing, would you just like share something that He's been working on you
Yeah.
in?
Yeah. Absolutely. Hmm. I think that something I've always I wouldn't necessarily say prided myself in, but something that I've always, people have always, I think, noticed and said about me is that I've always been very patient, and I usually am a very patient person when it comes to just people and loving on people. And um, I don't know, when you're in situations that are taxing and very um, hmm, I don't know quite how to say it, but situations that kind of put you through the ringer, that are seasons of trial, like when whether it's God refining you, or whether it's just a really hard season that you walk through. Things that have been really easy in the past can become really hard. And I think that over the last year, personally, me really with the babies growing up and not sleeping as much, and being in a situation where we felt like we needed to move, and having all that weight on my shoulders, I went from feeling like I could be very patient and very gentle and soft in my responses, um, to all of a sudden just really losing my temper, and really like losing my like kind of losing my cool. Not that I would yell or scream or get all upset, but um, and it always happens with the people you love the most. You're not gonna
Oh,
just
yeah.
you're not gonna whip off and just like talk to like some stranger in Starbucks or some stranger at the mall and be like rude to them, be like like be a jerk to them. But you're gonna be a jerk to the people you love, because they're gonna love you, and you live life with them, so it's easier to get annoyed and get impatient. And I just found my patience wearing very, very thin, very, very quickly. And that's just been something that I've been praying, especially over the last month and a half or two that we've moved here and kind of started fresh and started a new season of life. Is that I've just been praying that God would renew that in me, that He would kind of help me find that patience, help me to get back to that place where I'm building that relationship so close with Him, and that I'm drawing so near to Him that all those other things don't really matter. That I'm able to have that patience like He's had with me, because it's not right for me to take out my impatience and my frustrations on the people that I love. And so I think that's been the big thing for me that I've seen.
That's great. And I mean, thank you for sharing that. That's very vulnerable. And, you know, uh, that's something that for sure was the toughest part of Mandy and I's first year of marriage.
Yeah.
I just had never seen it, and you don't see it until you live with somebody. Like that's the thing.
No.
Like we dated for probably I think 2 years or
Hmm.
so before we got married, and so like we knew
Same.
each other
Yeah.
really
Yep.
well, great friends. Then we got married and moved to Washington. That all happened within like 6 months. Our
Yep.
marriage and our move out across the
Candace and I
country.
got married and moved to Iowa within 6 months as well.
Yeah, yeah. And so then it's just like you are on your own, and
Yeah.
you can't drive home if you get mad at your spouse.
Nope. There's no going to mom and dad's house.
Yeah, which for us I think was really good because I know for sure there were times that Mandy would have gone home, if she could have,
Yeah.
but we were a 40-hour drive away, so she couldn't.
Fair.
And like, yeah, that was something that she really helped me with in our first year or two of marriage. Is she had just never, her dad's really chill, and like her
Hmm.
family, like they don't yell at each other, they don't, like, they're pretty
Yeah.
pretty laid back family. And I would reach just this point where like I had been bottling things up. I didn't, and put some of that's my personality. I would just bottle, 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 and then like the least little thing, and it was just right. The
Yeah.
volcano, Mount Vesuvius erupts and destroys
Yes.
Pompeii, right? And like that was our relationship for that first year of marriage. Is like
Hmm.
every few weeks, just with the stress of life and
Something.
moving and new season and new marriage, and then it would just be like some little thing, right? And I would just explode, and she would run off into the other room crying.
Yeah.
And she really helped me through that, to say, hey, like that's not all right, like that's not
Yeah.
normal, that's not. And like I just didn't know. I had no clue. She's like, that's not a normal human reaction. What you are doing is not normal, and it really hurts me, and you've got to stop. Like, this cannot continue. And so
Yeah.
we really, she really helped me work through that, and so like I get that, that God works on us in that, because he really did work on me in that, and I really don't do that anymore. So
Yeah.
it's Jesus and Mandy. It's
Yeah.
Jesus and Mandy for me. I think for me, one of the big things I'm learning right now, or that God I think is trying to teach me. I don't know how well I'm learning it right now, but yeah, I know. It's like I don't know how well I'm learning it, but I feel
Yeah.
like He's trying to teach me is that I am an extrovert, and I do get so much energy and fulfillment from being around people.
Yeah.
And so like church life for me, it's all about like, man, it is all about Sundays. I love
Hmm.
Sundays, or like, during the week when classes come in, just getting, even if it's just a brief hello, a brief conversation, man, like that will power me up for the rest of the day. And like, I've got energy and I feel good about myself and I'm encouraged, and right now, you know, there's none of that.
It's
I mean,
tough.
people, I don't mean to say that, I mean, people are being encouraging. They really are. I'm so encouraged by the way people are participating
Hmm.
online, and our people are so great. Like, they're sending me emails and text messages after the services, just like, oh man, it was so good today. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for keeping us together. I mean, like, they're really, they have been encouraging, but I don't get those hugs, and I don't get those face-to-face
Yep.
interactions like
Yep.
that. And I feel like maybe, I mean, that's not a bad thing, but that can become almost a codependency on
Yeah.
people, that like you find your self-worth and your identity through those compliments and through those interactions.
Those
And
little pick me
right,
ups. Yeah.
yeah, those little pick-me-ups that you get from people. And I feel like maybe God is teaching me through this season that, you need me.
Hmm.
You need my presence. You don't need the little compliments. You don't need the little attaboys. You don't need the little pick-me-ups
That's
as much
good.
as you think you do. You need to be turning to me right now, and you need to be resting in me and finding your identity in me. And that's been a struggle, honestly. I have felt a little discouraged, a little dry spiritually the
Hmm.
last few weeks. And I feel like that's something that I need to be leaning into right now, is that, okay, if that's
Yeah.
what God is trying to teach me, that it's, that what I really need is him, that it's really just Jesus. It's Jesus plus nothing, right?
Yeah.
That's what I heard a pastor, he used that all the time. I forget Billy Graham's grandson. I forget his name, Tullian something, down in Florida.
Hmm.
He even wrote a book, Jesus plus nothing equals everything. Jesus plus nothing
Hmm.
equals everything. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's something that God's trying to bring me back around to, just personally right now, is I
Wow.
need Jesus, just Jesus every
Yeah.
day, every day.
Yeah.
So I don't
That's
know how
huge.
well I'm learning it right now, but I'm trying, I'm trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think that's pretty good
Yeah, it
for today.
is.
I don't have any other questions, but yeah, thanks for getting together, taking time out of your day. I'm sure that you've got babies to tend to, and a wife to serve, and I mean, a life to live, and
Always.
then of course, we've got we get planning and stuff to do for church and that kind of stuff. But thanks for
Oh yeah.
taking time out of your day to get together for a little bit for me. And I hope that this is encouraging to anybody who may have listened today. If you did enjoy this, or were encouraged by this, or blessed, be sure to leave us a comment and let us know. And we just hope that that you're loved in this, and you're not alone in this. You really are. You're loved, and you're never alone. So we will get through this. God will get us through this. And what we
Hmm.
really need right now is just Jesus. We need Jesus. So thank you for joining us. And Zach, thank you. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. And I hope that there's no dirty diapers to change when you get downstairs.
Fingers crossed.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot. And we'll see you again next time.